That is Samantha and Foolproof here on WFUTDB. It's 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, and my name is Tony Botchgalupo. You are listening to You Are Invited. I am back from a trip to London with my wife where we had, oh man, we just had the absolute best time. So I'm very happy to be back in the studio here and have so much that I am excited to be sharing with you over the course of the next hour. So the way this is going to work is I'm going to tell you a couple of stories, and we'll go through just a couple of different topics as we go. And if you want to talk to me while I am broadcasting, definitely just drop in, say hello. Look for me on Twitter or Instagram. My username is Tony Be Good, TonyBgoode, and I will be with you here at Factory Underground Radio for the next hour. So I want to talk about London. I want to talk about a couple of my experiences there. We are going to be talking about a meetup group that involves a whole bunch of people getting together at a bookstore and making friends based on what shelf is your favorite shelf. I want to be talking about trash pickup and the importance of finding your local watering hole, your local community hub whenever you are heading somewhere new. And I also want to talk a little bit about, I want to talk about trash pickup for sure because I'm amazingly into it right now. I think there's a lot that we can do there. And I want to wrap it up by talking about community gardens. So, a couple of my big favorite takeaways from the trip. So, first of all, this meetup group, which we saw when we were in London, we were so blown away. So, the way that it works is in London, there is this, there's a whole bunch of amazing bookstores, by the way. And so if you go to London, you will find that there are just a tremendous number of beautiful bookstores, ones that have been around for a long time. And we ended up going to one of them. I'm going to try to pull up the details of this while I'm talking here. But the bookstores that we went to, some of them are just enormous and have so many details. So I'm looking at Waterstones. Waterstones is the one that I'm thinking of. 5 stories. It is the biggest bookstore in Europe, I'm told, and it has so much, so much. There are, what I'm used to in the States, if I go to a bookstore, is I will see like a place and a shelf, like let's say history section, and it'll be like the history shelf, and there'll be books about history. No big deal. In the European bookstores, Waterstones in particular, it was like European history, West European pre-World War II history, like German history. Like they are so much more into their history over there. And I guess it makes sense. It's they got a lot more history to think about in terms of their own experiences. But point is that this bookstore is huge and amazing, had a lot to offer. And at the top floor, it has a restaurant and it has a cafe and it has a big open, just kind of hangout gathering space with some couches and tables, things like that. And so, what I stumbled upon while my wife and I were there was this meetup group that is literally all about getting together and meeting new people at a bookstore. And so it ended up being a really cool event where there was over 200 people who RSVP'd at the event on meetup.com. And it ended up being a ton of people. I think a lot of the people knew about each other through this particular group, but a lot of people were meeting for the first time. And so it ended up being just this incredible idea. We didn't get to participate in the main program because we didn't get there till pretty late. But what it ended up being was they would gather everyone together at the kind of main spot at the very top of this store, Waterstones, and they would organize people based on what shelf they found the most interesting, what topic they wanted to focus on. And so people would then split up into smaller groups and go head out into the bookstore, go to the shelf, and talk about the books that are on that particular shelf. And so what you end up having is you've got this room full of people, and then very quickly they end up finding out about each other and what kinds of interests they have. They end up being able to have some very interesting conversations about what they have read before, what they haven't read yet that they want to read. They're just learning so much about the books that they're interested in. Inevitably, there's going to be people there who have read the same book. There's going to be people there who have one person's read the book that the other person wants to read. So there's just tons of opportunity there for connections to be made. And you can imagine that it just leads very logically to, hey, we should keep talking about this. Let's keep the conversation going after this event is over. And so this is actually run by a group called the Science and Philosophy Book Club. If you're going to London, you can look them up. And the event is simply called Make New Friends at a Bookshop. And if you live in London, you happen to know somebody, the next one's May 17th, Saturday, 6 to 9 p.m. And it's amazing. It's got 74 people who are already signed up for that next one next month. And yeah, and so I just love the idea of leveraging an existing space that can give you some information about the people who are coming. So, okay, we've got this group of people who are all coming to meet new people and they're meeting people at a bookshop. How can we make use of the fact that we're all in a bookshop? Well, the bookshop has so many things to offer. There's so many cool things going on in the bookshop, and inevitably people have read books. They have opinions about those books. And if you divide people up based on what genres or topics or areas of books they want to talk about, then that's inevitably going to lead to some very interesting connections and conversation. You've got a room full of strangers, 100 plus 150, 200 people who are talking to each other, and they don't necessarily know what they have in common with each other. But once you say, hey, we're going to have the romance novel people over here, we're going to have the business book people over here, we're going to have the science people over here, go pick your group. And then you go to the shelves. I mean, you take me to a one of the shelves. You can take me to any bookshelf, but if you take me to a bookshelf of books that I'm interested in, I am going to be talking a lot. I'm going to be interested to share what books I've read and what I've learned from them, what I recommend. But I'm also going to be really interested to hear from other people who have read other books that I haven't tried yet. If you've ever been, I mean, obviously, when you go to a bookstore, you've got this wall of titles, and they say you can't judge a book by its cover. There must be certainly some absolute gems of books that are staring you right in the face that might be hard for you to recognize as being something that you should check out. And so you get the benefit, of course, of learning about interesting books that you want to try, which is a big win. But you also get the benefit of connecting with people who are interested in the same subject matter. And so that unto itself is a huge win. And inevitably, I feel like it's just going to lead to conversations. It's going to lead to follow-ups, people talking to each other, hanging out afterwards. So I highly recommend this. I feel like I want to organize one of these at a local bookshop somewhere around here, and I would love to see where we could make that happen. So, very interested in that topic, and I just thought it was such a great event, and they clearly had done a great job of bringing people out and getting people into the same room together. So, great stuff there. And I will also talk a little bit about finding your local spot. So my wife and I moved to Norwalk almost 2 years ago, and we relatively quickly found ourselves pretty well connected. We kind of figured out where the right spaces were, the right people, groups that we wanted to join, things like that. But we were able to actually reproduce a lot of that pretty quickly in London, even just on a short trip. And of course, we had a leg up because we had some people there who already knew about what was going on in town and some of the spaces to visit. And so, of course, you take every advantage you can get when you are uh, in a foreign place. You want to make use of the locals as best as you can. We combine that with our own research. I have a pretty detailed process whenever I visit a new place. I start on Google Maps. I search for cafes. I search for bookstores. I search for bars and restaurants. I try to get an idea of the personality of the town and just where the interesting spaces are, but it's never necessarily obvious and easy what that ideal first place is that you wanna go. And so having locals who can help you is always a big win. But what we ended up finding was this place that was not far from where we were staying, a short walk, for not even a 5-minute walk, called the Yurt Cafe. And the Yurt Cafe has, as you might imagine, is kind of this really cute kind of domed space, but it's so much more. It has extra rooms. It has a community center. It has an event space. It has like a prayer and contemplation space. Just a really cool, and a whole bunch of outdoor space as well with community gardens, things like that. And so what was so cool about this was, A, it gave us a nice spot to just go and get a cup of coffee before we hit the tube and went into town, but this was immediately a hub where we could find out what was going on locally in ways that we never would be able to find just by searching on the internet. And so by getting a chance to be out there, be around the people who are there and see what's in that space, we learned very quickly there was we weren't there for this, but there was a marathon cheering session that was going to be going on right after we left town. The London Marathon route ran just right through the Yurt Cafe area. We found out about a knitting and sewing club. My wife is into crochet and was starting to get into embroidery as well, and so we said, "Okay, let's do this. I'm gonna go for a run, on Saturday morning, and she'll go and hang out with the knitting club." And so, we already had a bit of a social calendar coming together. And one of the other things that we discovered, actually, while my wife was at the knitting club on that Saturday morning, was the fact that there was a trash pickup, a volunteer trash pickup group that was organizing outside of the window where Christina was while they were doing their knitting club, and it ended up being a really wonderful group of people. I finished my run and came back to find Christina and to find this group of people who were doing the cleanup. It's amazing. They had basically exactly the same equipment that we have here in Norwalk for our trash pickups. They had the reflective vests, the little sticks, little grabby things, these hoops that you put a garbage bag through so you can very easily kind of hold a big garbage bag, hold it open, have the stick, throw stuff from the stick into the hoop, and clean up trash very easily. So immediately it felt extremely familiar. I felt very at home, and man, the people there were just the most wonderful, happy, joyous people. Even if they weren't, totally happy about the state of the world or what was going on, we had a happy context to be in, which was that we were out enjoying the fresh air on a beautiful Saturday morning. And we were there to make the neighborhood more beautiful. We were there to clean it up, to make it nicer. And that's the kind of thing that just feels good. We, I feel like, have gotten so far down a route culturally where we're pursuing, materialistic ends or, trying to find happiness in some of the wrong places. And the truth is that some of the happiest moments I've had are moments when I am helpful, when I'm feeling useful, when I'm doing something good for other people. And so I just hit it off with these people. They call themselves the Wash Wombles. So, Wash being short for Wapping and Shadwell, two of the neighborhoods in the area where we were, and the Wombles, which refers to a cartoon, a British cartoon from, I believe it was the 70s or the 80s, which are these little creatures who clean up after humans. And they're these just adorable little critters, and they love to tidy things. And so their adventures would always involve them basically cleaning up after the messy humans. And so the Wombles ended up becoming this really great kind of mascot and symbol for the people who go around cleaning up after messy humans. And so I thought it was super cool. And what I was explaining to them was, I think the idea of there being a regular trash pickup crew is a good thing, and there should be more of it, and there should be ones all over the world happening. And I'm sure there are to some degree, but if you know me, I want more. I want to see more people doing more of these good things in more cities. And so what I told them was how interested I am in the fact that there's this brand, that there's this idea of, okay, maybe they can't use the word, Wombles necessarily. I guess they are using it informally in their own group, but that they have these cute little critters that they each one had a button on their lapel, or they called it a badge that was on their lapel with one of these adorable little characters. And the idea was just it gave them a tangible image to associate with what they're doing, and it made it easier for me to say, I want to start a Wash Womble group in Norwalk, or I want to see other people start Wash Womble groups in other parts of the world. I think having a brand around a really good reproducible idea is super important. I'll actually use that as a segue to talk about something similar that is also in the same vein. When I first got started in my community work, the only coworking that I could find in New York City in 2007 was this thing called Jelly. And it was run by this wonderful entrepreneur named Amit Gupta, who had his own business called Photo Jojo. He was a student of the Seth Godin School of Marketing and Branding. And so Amit had a good sensibility for memorable names and memorable brands. And so there's a big difference between, you could run a really great program that's called like coworking meetup at Eco Evolution or something like that, and it could be a really good event, but it's not necessarily going to inspire people to copy it and remix it and think about why it should be in someone else's city if it doesn't have a nice brand. When you have a brand like Jelly or Washwambles, it's easier to say like, well, I'm part of the Jelly NYC chapter. Is there a Jelly Philadelphia chapter? Or is there a Jelly Boston? It implies the possibility that this brand could expand. And so I just love the idea of, and I want to think more about how I can incorporate this into some of the programs I'm developing, is to try to design them to be branded and enticing and remixable going forward. And so I am I was so excited and so thrilled to meet these wonderful people, have a nice, just very local human to human chat with the people who live in the neighborhood, and then go clean up the neighborhood. And I just went down a couple of blocks that I had never been down before and might never go down again. And I picked up all kinds of weird trash, and it was really fun. It felt good. And I will say also, having done this in Norwalk, it is amazing how much doing something like that changes your relationship to the environment around you. The spots that I've cleaned up in trash pickup, I don't look at the same way again. When I am in a particular place, that I have been a part of, where I've helped to clean that up and make it cleaner and prettier, I feel a sense of ownership over that. I feel a sense of I helped to make this better, and a part of my soul, a part of my energy is now infused into this space. And if I see it get dirty again, I would, if I were driving by and I saw that my spot started getting dirtied up, I'd almost want to pull over and just go clean it up again. you know? And so I find it just very interesting that there is this incredible feeling of connection that you can foster with a area when you interact with it, especially when you clean it up and beautify it, make it nicer. So it was super fun to have that opportunity, and doubly fun that while I was doing it, my wife was making friends in the knitting circle. She was doing some embroidery, and everyone just got to have some really nice conversations there. So that was a nice experience, and I will again come back to the fact that this was something that was taking place outside of the local community cafe. And I can't emphasize that enough, that the finding that spot that is the place where the energy is, where stuff is going on, is just so critical. And so the more that you can try to find that, especially where you live, but beyond that, where you visit, anywhere you go, trying to find that spot uh, just leads to so much serendipity, so many good things happening. And this is an ongoing thing as well. So even just on a day-to-day basis here in Norwalk, I know that if I feel like I need to connect more, if I need to be looking for something new, something different, meeting people, getting involved in something, there are very specific places I can go, and very few that I can go where I feel like I have a very good chance of running into somebody, of getting introduced to somebody, of hearing about something new and interesting that's going on. And here in Norwalk, the equivalent of that Yurt Cafe is Ecoevolution. I can't think of even really a place that's the second best. Here at Factory Underground is an amazing place to be. It's not like a retail cafe you can go into anytime, but I have found a lot of that energy here, which is part of why I'm so thrilled and honored to have a show on this radio station. But Ecoevolution is the hangout spot. You can go in there, you can have a cup of coffee, you can see their amazing collection of artisan goods and clothes that they've curated, and inevitably interesting people are going to come through the door. You're going to see flyers for stuff that's going on around town. You talk with the baristas know what's going on, and it leads to good things happening. It leads to you getting to know other people, and Ecoevolution was huge for me, getting our feet wet here in Norwalk when we first moved into town. But the other thing is, again, that you can do that going forward. You can do that on an ongoing basis as well. That I could go tomorrow if I need a little boost. If I'm feeling cabin fever, I just need to get out of the house and be around other people. I could head over to the cafe. Um, After the election in November in 24, my wife and I were needing to get out of the house. We had just consumed a whole lot of television. It was an intense time. And we took a walk. It's a long walk for us, but we walked to Ecoevolution. And it just felt so nice to be at our home away from home, around other people, interacting with people in a friendly and constructive way. And we found other people we knew kind of breezed in as well, and almost felt like there was a mutual feeling that this is somewhere, we wanted to not be in our homes in that moment. We wanted to be out, wanted to be around other people. And I feel like my post-election experience was a lot more a lot more healthy because they got to go and be a part of, what was going on in that space. So, big fan of finding your space, finding your headquarters, and if it is something that, um, you know where it is, getting into the habit of getting out there, being around other people, and just patronizing those spaces. Because that's the other thing. These spaces are not, a given. A place like Ecoevolution or the Yurt Cafe, is not necessarily always going to be there. And so you want to make sure that you are supporting those businesses. One of the things I had read, oh gosh, I'm going to try to pull it up while I'm talking here. Um, One of the things that I read was about, let's see, is it Shauna Pilgrim, Love Where You Live, uh, how to live, sent in a place you call home. So one of the things that I had read, I believe it was in this book, might have been a different one, was the fact that local businesses have such a low threshold for success relative to how much we collectively as a community can support them. What does that mean? Basically, somebody like a local cafe often struggles to turn a profit, but they often don't have a super high bar to clear in order to turn that profit. And so let's say that, for example, your favorite local cafe is running at a deficit of, $1,000 a month. Let's just say that $1,000 a month is a lot for them because inevitably it's run by somebody who's, not sitting around flush with tons of cash. But it is not a lot of money when you think of it in terms of what a community can do. So something like $1,000, when you divide that up, you say, well, if I only go in there maybe once a week even and spend $5 on a cup of coffee, then we only need, what is it, 50 people to do that, to cover that space's expenses, to cover that gap. And so, what I had read about this was that just making the commitment to showing up, not even that often, but to showing up just a little bit more, but the consistency of that, and that if a good number of us do that, then that can provide the security and the finance and the underpinnings that would allow a really critical local community space to continue operating. And so, what I like to think about is how can we, as local citizens, as people who care about our local communities, how can we support our local businesses and commit to doing so in a way that they know they have some finances that they can count on? Easy wins. Because what we don't want is to lose track. We get in the habit of staying close to home. We get in the habit of, ordering Starbucks on the app or whatever it is. It's fine to do that as long as you don't lose at least some regular connection to those local businesses you want to support. If enough of us do fall into that habit of staying home, ordering on the Starbucks app, that kind of thing, and then one day that local business dries up and it closes up shop because they just weren't making enough money to justify their existence. Well, now we're all worse off. And so, really a big part of what's so important, I found, is just getting into the habit, of consistently attending, participating, patronizing one of your local businesses. And this is also why I'm a fan of membership structures for those local businesses. So for your local cafe, would you spend a regular monthly amount of money if you knew that it got you a free coffee, discounted stuff, access to events, and if you just knew that it was helping to keep that cafe alive? Because again, $10 a month, $20 a month times one or 200 or 300 local patrons, it's a few $1,000s a month, and that really could make the difference between a cafe staying in business and closing its doors. And so I'm a big fan. I like to advocate for that. Is talking about just cafe-based membership models. Um, and actually, right here in Norwalk, the Art Space Cafe uh, just started doing exactly this. So I'm going to try to pull up some details on that, see if we could talk a little bit about that, because I just love the fact that one of our local cafes here in town is doing this. So, yes, membership at the Norwalk Art Space. Um, you can be a community advocate for $500 a year, which, when you think about it, really not that much money. $500 a year is what I'm not going to be able to keep talking and do the math in my head at the same time. But that's why I have $41 a month. Okay, so not nothing, but for that you get access to the annual gala, exclusive member events, exhibition previews, and an appreciation package. Opportunity Maker 125 annually gets you access to those member events. 125 annually, you're talking about $10 a month. And then they have one at $50 a month. So for $50 a month, you get access to those prior to opening reception exhibition access. And you get to call yourself a member and you get some appreciation for that as well. So just love that they're offering that because, again, for like $50 a year, if I could know that that's helping to keep a critical local community space in business, then it's really pretty easy sell. So, big fan of that, and want to just talk again a little bit about some of my experiences in London. It's 5:32 as of exactly now here in Norwalk, Connecticut, 71 degrees. You're listening to WFUT DB, and this is You Are Invited. My name is Tony Bacigalupo, and I am here to talk about all the different easy, simple ways that we can foster connection for ourselves, for each other, for our neighborhoods, because I believe that we have been dealing with a degradation, a disassembly of our social fabric over the course of the last several decades. And that has led predictably to a lot of bad stuff in terms of how our society is working or not working. And we can do something about that. I truly believe we could do something about that by getting more active, by, first of all, ourselves being more connected to the people that we want to be connected to in our world, by spending more time with our friends and by inviting other people to join us in those things. And so, even the simplest of activities, even the simplest things, regular dinner parties, brunches, going out even to cafes and bars, board game nights. There are so many fun things that you can do. And what I love to talk about in this show is what I'm finding, because there are so many things out there that people are doing that that I think we can draw some inspiration from. And so I just want to continue telling these stories in the hopes that it inspires more of you to do more fun stuff in your world. Because if enough of us get inspired to do fun stuff and connect people, then we might just be able to reverse that trend of disconnection that we've been dealing with over the course of the last several decades and repair some of our torn social fabric and reduce some of our divisiveness and all of that craziness and make the world a better, happier, healthier place. So, to that end, I want to talk about one other thing that my wife and I discovered while we were in London. And it's another space, another physical place. This was one that no one told us about. It was just purely by virtue of the fact that we went and walked to where we were going next. And as a result of that, we stumbled upon a community garden space that was just so immediately breathtaking that we knew that we had to stop what we were doing, even if we were running a little bit late, and just go check out this space. Now, community gardens are not the most uncommon thing in the world, but this one I found to be remarkable. So it's called Calthorpe Community Garden, and it's in a suburban part of central London. And this particular community garden was, I would say, on about an acre of land. And in that acre, they had just a uh, um, they had a physical space where they had an office. They had a couple of multi-purpose gathering spaces, or like teaching classrooms, things like that, craft spaces. They had a separate physical space, an outdoor space for younger folks. So there was kind of a fenced off area for little kids, and this one, and of course, a lot of gardens. They had some courts for playing sports, and they had the little brook going through one area with a bridge, and there were art students there who were doing like a presentation and a crit, and they invited us to join for that. Um, yeah, they host lots like small scale football, tennis, workouts, things like that, and it was just such an amazing thing. And what I took away from it, aside from just being inspired and just seeing such a cool space, on their website, Calthorpe Community Garden calls themselves a garden oasis, bringing people together to be healthy and happy. Uh, Calthorpe Community Garden is a welcoming space for everyone, just a 10-minute walk from King's Cross. This urban oasis offers a variety of activities from gardening and sports to fitness and fun. As a sustainable hub, Calthorpe promotes eco-friendly living and embraces an inclusive approach to community life. Whether you're a new face or an old hand, you'll always receive a warm welcome at Calthorpe. We are looking forward to seeing you. So, when we were there, they were doing a group volunteering effort. So there were a bunch of people there tidying up the place, making improvements, all of that stuff. And so it was a very special moment just to be there and see people helping out. Um, so I'll talk about what I took away a little bit more in just a moment, but I'll also just want to tell you a little bit more about what they have there. They have sewing and embroidery programming. They have Tai Chi, a coffee meetup, walking football for 50 plus, vegetarian cooking class, chair yoga. There's a separate embroidery class called Embroidery and Social Support, collab with Mind in Camden. So I'm very curious to know more about what that is. An illustration class, a rainbow food co-op, women's football, Latin dance, knitting club, community lunch, tennis for adults. This is all just what's happening this week at Calthorpe. So just such an impressive and beautiful space. If you're interested in looking at them for inspiration, they're Calthorpe, Calthorpe, communitygarden.org.uk. So calthorpecommunitygarden.org.uk. And you can look at their weekly program, learn a little bit about their space. What I am really curious about is the opportunity of community gardens. So I think a lot about this when I think about the fact that where I grew up in the suburbs, we had a beautiful home. We were very fortunate to grow up where we did, my sister and I. And my parents, they found us a beautiful home in a beautiful neighborhood. And the biggest problem that we had in that neighborhood was that it was spread out, and it was not easy to get to other places without a car. And so for us, getting out, finding other people, even just participating in the community of the environment around us, just the neighbors around us, we didn't have a lot of really great tools for it. And so I have been dreaming, nurturing this idea of what would it look like to have some kind of a hub, some kind of a place where the people in the neighborhood I grew up in could convene, where it's walking distance and they're somehow able to all join up and be a part of it. And it might not work in most places. In fact, in my in my neighborhood where I grew up, I think you would basically need to buy a house and then form like a cooperative or a nonprofit or an organization around uh, paying for that, servicing that, all of that. And so that's something that I definitely still think requires some thinking through. But for a lot of places, the opportunity, I think, is in these community gardens because there are more of them or there are more opportunities to create them. You have a foot in the door to allocating a space explicitly for community use and explicitly to be run by members of that neighborhood and of that community. So we're not talking about a park where the city maintains the park or some local municipality. This is a space that people have the ability to dig into literally and remake and rebuild and improve as they see fit. And so that just creates so much opening. And so the thing that I took away from Calthorpe Community Garden is that if you have a community garden and you have enough room, then what could it look like to erect a structure in that community garden, a physical building that can house events and gatherings and programming? Because if you've got the land, if you've got the infrastructure as far as a community garden is concerned, and you can jump over probably not the most obvious hoops, but still, if you can get a physical structure built, then you could potentially inject third places, community spaces into neighborhoods where zoning or other land cost issues would create problems. And so the fact that you have more and more of these community gardens that you could find, they might be able to, in a way, infiltrate suburban neighborhoods and create an opportunity for those people to have a shared place to go. Because having a place, like having that outdoor area, enclosed outdoor area for little kids to go, is so powerful to know that people who live in that area, of course, you could take kids to a park. This is a little bit more contained, a little safer, a little bit more familiar. The people who are there tend to know each other, and just to be able to know, okay, I can send my kids there. Uh, we can reclaim maybe a little bit more of what that old school, feeling was like of kids being able to run around and have some freedom. Having a community garden space, walking distance, can really unlock some of that ability to participate in your neighborhood, and not just be stuck in your house with your family. And so for kids, being able to get out and be around their families, around other people's families and other kids, just doesn't. Uh, it, it's the kind of thing that's hard to find in a lot of cases. So I love the idea of leveraging community gardens as a foot in the door and maybe investing more in them as not just gardens, but as, oh gosh, I'm going to get cheeky and say like a garden for community, figurative gardens, and not just literal gardens, but a physical place that you can use to foster connection and community, and create some of those resources that a suburban context might otherwise have trouble with. And I think this is also, so this speaks to a topic that I've been thinking about for a while because of my upbringing, is what is that perfect model? And so I've looked at co-housing setups and community living kind of setups, communal living, people sharing the same home, sharing the same physical edifice is not necessarily, it's a tough sell. It is something that, tends to be for younger folks or tends to be for the more kind of crunchy folks. And um, it tends to be a difficult thing to get started, and it tends to be a very difficult thing to maintain. So the idea of like intentional living, shared physical housing, I think is certainly worth developing, certainly worth investing in and exploring and breaking down some of those barriers. But I like to think in terms of the existing infrastructure that we have and how we can use what we've got and not have to do something super ambitious like buy a bunch of property or rezone uh entire areas. Basically if you end up needing a lot of money or you need major policy changes in order to achieve something, it's going to be an uphill battle and it might take a really long time to get there and you might just never get there. And so what I like to think about is how can we use existing infrastructure to solve some of these problems? So something like suburban sprawl, you say, okay, I'm in a place where there's a bunch of houses and nothing else. I can't open a cafe right in the middle of all of it for a whole bunch of reasons. So how do I build community and foster a greater environment of connection? Certainly, you can make creative use of people's homes. A lot of times, if you're in a place where it is just homes, those homes tend to be bigger, they tend to have more space. Maybe you can think in terms of how to activate those living spaces in each people's individual home. But I do just love the idea of what are the other foots in the door that you have. Community gardens is one. Church is another. Churches, there tend to be religious facilities that get embedded in otherwise suburban communities. They tend to have physical space, they tend to have gathering space, and a lot of them are interested in figuring out how to get more people in the door, even if it's not specifically for religious purposes. And so, making connections with folks who run local churches, seeing how those churches can become more like they were a while back and that they were always supposed to be, to be hubs of community for the neighborhood. And another one that I'm interested in is every now and then I will come past a deli or maybe like a repair shop of some kind, a little beachhead of commercial retail space that's right at the edge or right in the middle sometimes, or kind of along a road that borders a major suburban stretch. And I'm very interested, again, just from a zoning standpoint, about saying, okay, if we wanted to break up the sprawl, we wanted to create walkable centers for community connection, where could we have foots in the door? And every now and then I will go past a little deli and I will think to myself, gosh, this is so close, so walkable to so many homes in this area. I can't imagine the rent would be that expensive. You could just imagine if you can picture a specific place that's like this in your world, a place where there is some physical commercial edifice, maybe it's like an auto repair shop or something, where, okay, the rent can't be that bad. What could it look like for some kind of a community group or association to take over that space, turn it into a community hub, and have that be covered by the residents who live in the area who would benefit tremendously from having a physical space to go gather in that's walking distance from their home. And again, trying to use as little resource as possible. Would it be much harder to change zoning, to buy property, to build new property? Absolutely. If you know that there's already an existing piece of land, that there's already something you can do, that you can work with, lowering that barrier. Something that I'm always thinking about. And that does lead to another thing that, even more resilient, because what I'm talking about, still requires a fair bit of resources, a fair bit of leadership and commitment in order to get there. And it's certainly not easy. But one of the things I read about, which I'll have to pull up for the show notes, is about front yard versus backyard culture. And so I definitely grew up where I saw a lot of backyard culture. I've also seen growing up in some neighborhoods, front yard culture. And what does that mean? It means where do you hang out when you're hanging out with your family at your house? Do you hang out in the backyard where it's private, where other people don't see you and what you're doing? Of course, there's benefits to that. Or do you hang out in the front yard where people can see you, where people can approach you and maybe say hi, maybe come on up and start, talking to you, participate in stuff that you're doing. Propagating a front yard culture can be huge because you don't need a physical space for that. You're literally just making use of the space that you already have. And just by creating that habit, that expectation of, hey, I'm hanging out outside. Maybe you hang out outside. The dream scenario is you start coordinating something where a number of people around the block are doing something outside, whether that involves, art or food or a block party or something like that, but where you're creating an expectation and a habit of people are spending time in front of their homes. Uh, it could be a really interesting way to get people to feel more connected to their neighbors, even if they are in a totally suburban setting where getting, a non-suburban physical space into the area would be difficult. So, love the idea, especially as we enter into this unbelievably beautiful season of springtime here in Norwalk, Connecticut, how we can make use of the beautiful outdoors, be visible, be accessible to each other, and start creating opportunities for connections to happen. So, in terms of your world, I wonder, what does it look like to hang out in the front? Do you have a front? Of course, if you're in an apartment, that's a little bit different. I live in a big apartment complex, my wife and I, and so we have some shared areas that we can spend time in. In our building, it's very much about the pool. So once we get past Memorial Day, the pool becomes really the hub of activity in our area. But events, things like that, always come in handy. And if you do have physical space, if you do have a house, if you have a yard, what could it look like to be deliberately spending more time in that yard, in the front, making yourself visible to your neighbors, and just creating opportunities for those connections to emerge? I'm a big fan of it. So I'm going to start wrapping this up because I feel like we've covered quite a bit of material for this week. But I am now back. It's been a few weeks that I wasn't able to come here and do the show, but for the foreseeable future, I should be able to join you on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern to 6 p.m. Eastern here at WFUT DB Factory Underground Radio. And if you want to get in touch with me, I'm Tony Be Good on the socials, TonyBGOODE, and you can find me on all the typical platforms. And we stream this on the through the WFUT website. So if you are looking to share this with other people, Factory Underground, uh, WFUT. So it's WFUTradio.com. And I'm also simulcasting this on YouTube, so you can actually see me in the studio. Right now, I'm not using the camera for much more than just pointing it at my face while I'm talking, but in future conversations, I will have guests back in here. I have done a couple of episodes prior. You can get the back episodes by finding the You Are Invited show on YouTube. You'll find it under my Belongfulness channel. And so we'll have some more visuals. I will probably work on having some more visual presentation style stuff for future episodes. And if you want to reach out to me directly, Tony, Tony, at belongfulness.com, BELONGFULNESS.com. Would love to hear your thoughts on what we should cover in future shows, any feedback that you have. So I'm going to wrap it up just a few minutes early. We are at 5:54 p.m. here in Norwalk, Connecticut. And this has been You're Invited. with Tony Bacigalupo. I will catch you 1 week from today when we do this again. Get out there, make friends, connect to your old friends, text somebody you haven't talked to in a while, get a dinner party going, get outside and just spend some time in nature, befriend a tree, find some magic. Don't let yourself get sucked into I'll go scrolling on the couch time, because we just need to keep fighting it. We need to keep giving ourselves a reason to get out of the house, be around other people, even if we're not feeling super social. Just being away from that couch scrolling mode is going to be really, really important and good for our health. So get out there, go be connected with other people, get some fresh air, and I will see you in a week. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Hey, this is Dan Walter. You're listening to Factory Underground Radio, Norwalk, Connecticut's alternative music source.